Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm right here by my pool. You guys have probably seen it from up there where I live. And I wanted to get out for a bit just because I was kind of tired of being in the cold. It's sunny out here in LA right now, about 75 degrees or something. But I want to talk to you guys about something. So I've told you guys that I'm going to share with you guys every little thing that happens for me when it comes to going to $1 million a month. And now look, this channel is not about just me making $1 million a month. This channel is to show you what kind of person you have to become to create the life of your dreams. Right? For me, part of that mission is I want to make $1 million a month. I want to make a lot of money. I want to change the world. I want to help people. And there's a lot of different things that I'm looking to do, but that's one of my main focuses right now. So really, again, like I'm not just going to teach you guys like how to make 100K a month, 100K a year, $1 million a year, whatever the case is. You can pretty much learn all of that online by yourself. Like it's all out there. Like it's so easy to do. But what I really want you guys to get from this is that the person who you are is the most important part of that aspect. Like who you are and how you operate is the most important thing when it comes to building the life of your dreams. And so I say this because we had a marketing meeting today, and actually before I tell you exactly an example of what I'm about to tell you is that when it comes to entrepreneurship, or even again anything that you're trying to build, is you have to be very self-aware of who you are and how you operate. And I talk about this all the time, right? But a lot of times, like, we're so disconnected with what's happening in the exterior world and even within us and how we're feeling, and we get caught up in our thoughts and our feelings and all this stuff that we don't recognize like what is actually happening. So have you guys ever noticed that you could be in a situation where you're trying to fix and get a certain outcome but for whatever reason it doesn't happen? Like no matter what you do, how many times you try and what you communicate, it just doesn't happen. Like there's just something that keeps getting lost in translation, and for whatever reason, like you never end up getting the end result. And so what I've learned is that it's obviously communication, right? And I think I've mentioned this to you guys before, but like when I first went to college, like I remember there was a communication major, and I was like, why would anybody major in communication? Guys, communication is one of the most important things, but what you communicate and how you communicate and what place are you coming from through that communication is really important. And so I say this because like when you're in the entrepreneur space, and really honestly it's any space, it's not even entrepreneur space, but this is for both male and female. Like it applies to both. We have both feminine and masculine energy. We both do, right? Obviously male tend to have a lot more masculine energy than feminine energy, but we have both, right? When it comes to men specifically, like as a masculine man, you get to lead. You get to lead all the time, 24/7. You lead in all the little things, right? You get to be decisive, you get to be grounded, and as to like what results you expect and what you want people to hear, right? And where you're headed. And when it comes to the feminine energy as a man, it's like it's really being in touch with your empathy, your vulnerability, compassion, and all those different things, all those different emotions. And so when you learn to mix both and be able to flow in a state where you can be compassionate and loving and at the same time fucking direct with what you expect, people hear you. And so what I'm trying to get at is that you get to trust both those sides. You get to trust both the masculine and the feminine energy to actually get the results that you want. And I believe 100% that every person out there who's ever created the life of their dreams, they're tapping into both sides to one extent or another and merging them simultaneously. So for example, when you're trying to create something, right, you want to create a certain outcome. Again, this is both male and female. Whenever we're trying to create a certain outcome, you have to be in your masculine energy. Like you have to be, right? Because when it comes to being in your masculine energy, it's all about action. It's massively taking action nonstop and being decisive as to what you want to do and what you want to create. At the same time, when you're in that masculine frame, like you really get to listen, right? And that's where the presence comes in that I talk about, is like from as a masculine man, and even women who will go into their masculine frame, it's all healthy on both sides, right? It's like you get to be present enough to the point where you actually listen and pay attention to what's happening and what you're communicating to people. So like, for example, somebody can think they're masculine because they're decisive and they can communicate, but if you're not actually stopping and listening, being direct, like it's not gonna get through. And so I say this because I was in a marketing meeting today. Last month was not the best month. Like we did not get anywhere near $1 million a month. And so although the marketing is getting dialed in, there seems to be something that keeps getting missed every single week for the last 4 weeks. And so what we realized is that I'm going to give you guys a very technical example. Some of you guys might understand, some of you guys might not if you don't know marketing. But when you're running ads, part of the objective is to get the ideal avatar that you want to be able to sell them the product or service that you want. And so when it comes to our service, we specifically need a certain type of client. Okay, so it might be kind of loud because they're cleaning over here, so I'm gonna move. But what I was saying is that if we're looking for a specific type of client, that client has to fit ideal parameters, right? So that they can actually come through our funnel, book a call, etc. For the last 4 weeks, we've been telling the marketing team, that if any leads come in and they have only $10,000 to $25,000 of capital, that they're not an ideal client. Like, that's not the ideal avatar that we want. And we set that every single week for the last 4 weeks. And I felt like I was saying that, like, I felt like we were being clear, even the sales team was being clear, and yet for whatever reason, we kept getting calls that were booked from leads that only had about 10 to 25K in capital. The other thing was that even the marketing team kept saying like, hey, we had X amount of calls booked, and they kept counting those calls. And I was like, wait, why are we counting those calls if those calls aren't part of our ideal avatar? And so it got to the point when today I had to be so assertive and like really stand my ground, and I had to like question it like 20 times because it seemed like even after I was questioning it, the message wasn't getting through. And so everybody in the team like clearly saw my frustration and like the message that I was trying to get across, and it basically got everybody to pause and be like, okay, wait, what's happening right now? What's not being communicated? And then so through that method, through like being assertive, standing my ground as to like, hey, you guys are still not hearing me. Like, either I'm not communicating something or you guys aren't listening. And so eventually it got to a point where everybody started chiming in, and then we got on the same page. We realized that this whole time the marketing team was counting those calls because they expected that those calls were actually ideal, when in reality, we've been trying to tell them for 4 weeks now that they're not. And so the way the Facebook pixel works is that when somebody's booking a call, those calls get fired back to Facebook and tells Facebook like, hey, we want more of these leads. And clearly that's not what we wanted. We didn't want those specific types of leads. And so I don't want to say we wasted 4 weeks, but there was some time that was wasted, but there was also a lot of learning curve, right? And what we realized is that it wasn't even about what I was saying. It wasn't about what the marketing team was saying. It wasn't about what the sales team was saying. It was about the fact that we weren't on the same page. And we weren't on the same page as to what a qualified lead is. We were talking about how much money they should have. We were talking about how many calls they have. We were talking about all these different things. But the main issue was really just the fact that we weren't on the same page of what a qualified lead was. And like nobody was catching it. At least I don't think anybody was, because nobody was saying anything. And like I had a feeling that was happening for the last 4 weeks. I thought the message was getting put across, and I realized that it wasn't. And it wasn't because even when I would bring up the last few weeks, we didn't end up with an actual action plan as to what we were going to do and change and implement to make that change. And so it really took for me to stand my ground and continuously say the exact same thing 5-7 times on that call within like 5 minutes, so we can actually realize like, holy shit, we're misaligned on what the qualified call is. For us, a qualified call is somebody who has over $25,000. If they don't have $25,000, like I don't even want them on the calendar. And here's the thing too, that at least for our offer, if somebody has less capital than that, just because they answer that on the questionnaire, it doesn't mean that they're not actually qualified, right? So we realize that those calls should be getting set up as triage calls, is what we call it on the sales department, which is basically when a setter calls these leads and confirms that these calls are real. Not real, but that they're actually qualified and real. And so if they are qualified, then we'll add them to the calendar, right? But they shouldn't be the ideal client that books a call. And so look, this is not a marketing video. This is not a sales video. This has nothing to do with any of that. It's just an example of like what we were facing. And really what I'm trying to get you guys to see is that I was not being present. I wasn't being present and standing my ground to make sure that they actually heard what I was saying. And so that wouldn't have happened if I didn't trust myself. Like, from a masculine frame, as a man, like, you have to trust yourself all the time. And look, this is not just about being a man. Women have every capability of doing that too, and they do it all the time, which is why a lot of women are very successful, just like men. And so that's the masculine energy. Like, we both have the masculine energy, and you have to know when to tap into that. And it really comes down to tapping into that all the time, right? Depending on what your goals are. And so if you're not aware of what you actually stand for, if you're not aware of what your vision is, if you're not aware of like what exactly is it that you want, the results that you want, nobody's gonna hear it, right? Some people might, right? But a lot of words are gonna get lost in translation, and the vision's gonna get lost if you're not actually clear. And the only way you're actually clear on what should be happening and how things should be happening is if you are crystal clear and communicating that and getting confirmation that they're actually hearing it. And so that's the main message I want you guys to get from this, is that you get to really listen. Like, you get to really listen to yourself and trust what you're picking up on. Like, a lot of the times we know when the message is getting across or not. And usually we end up stopping and not reconfirming because we're scared. Like, it comes from fear. And that fear is coming from a place of like, oh, you know what, the person's gonna get mad at me. I don't want to come off like a dick. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. They're gonna hesitate. They're not gonna work with me. There's all kinds of different things. And so you have to understand that that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't, because if you're not communicating what you actually expect, and you're getting somebody to agree on something that's not the actual truth, you're already not aligned. So you're better off reconfirming 10 times to make sure you're on the same page, with the chance that that relationship gets hurt, right? There's always that potential where people get basically butthurt and they feel like you're not, you know, like you're putting them down. So again, that's where the feminine energy then comes in, is how can you leave that conversation and communicate in a way where like you're like, hey, I hear what you're saying, I understand you, and like I totally get that part, but I need you to hear me right now. Like, when this is the outcome that we need, this outcome and no other outcome, like none of this other stuff matters. And so I invite you guys to look at, you know, different parts of your life of like, where have you stopped? Where have you taken one less step to actually get that next outcome that you wanted? Because that step where you pause might be the only reason why you're not quite where you want to be. And so I 1000% believe that if you guys implement this and like become aware, like hyper aware of every micro decision, every communication, every interaction you have with somebody, and are crystal clear on what that vision is, and like the vision not just being the big thing, the vision being all the little things. And so look at it from like a company perspective, right? Or even like a professional team. Like, there's different positions, and if one position's off in a football team or in a company or in a orchestra or anything like that, the whole thing's off, right? The entire thing's off. Like, you can have the top performers of an orchestra, a team of 20, and if one person is off, it's all off. It doesn't matter. And so you have to be really crystal clear, you know, as somebody, as the person who basically orchestrates the orchestra, I forgot what you call that, they have to be crystal clear as to like what each instrument is supposed to be sounding like. If they're not, and they allow one person or one instrument to get off course, the whole thing gets thrown off course, right? So this one move right here could have potentially affected us for many more months because I was not willing to like take a stand for it, right? And nobody else was, because nobody else even caught it. That's all I got for today. And if you guys ever run into these issues, like drop a comment down below, or there's anything else that you guys have foreseen that has stopped you from creating that life of your dreams, like I want to help you guys. Like I've gone through countless and countless of different situations, both personally and in business, that I wish I knew when I was 18 years old, right? I wish my parents would have taught me this when I was a kid. And the truth of the matter is that they couldn't teach me because they didn't know either. And so if there's anything out there that you guys think I can help with, like drop a comment below and I would definitely help you guys in the next video. Peace.